Please rise and honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Leary?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Rostikowicz?
Yeah, here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Conway?
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. Under special order of business, we first have presentation of diploma to Mr. Alfred Buckley. Mr. Buckley grew up on a farm in Dunstable at the age of 17, and 50 years ago in 1963. He dropped out of Lowell High School to join the U.S. Navy. He served in the Navy until March of 1970, serving 2 tours in Vietnam, and honorably discharged in March of 1970. He earned the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal with a Bronze Star. Now living in Pepperell with his family since 1976. He's employed as a plumbing and heating contractor, and with his wife, Susan, he's raised eight sons, which is also an impressive achievement. The youngest, Nathan, is currently, or has served 2 tours in Iraq. He also has continued his service to his community as a member of the Pepperell Conservation Commission, Board of Health, and a member of the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee for 17 years. And we're very proud and honored today to present him with his high school diploma. Congratulations. Thank you to the family for being here, and thank you for your service.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Next, under special order of business, we have a spotlight on excellence through gay eyes. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, we have the honor to present an amazing documentary and study that was conducted at Lowell High School. A number of students and staff came together with lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender questioning students came together to look and to present issues and poignant needs in that community. And so I would love to welcome the person who directed this and was the brains behind it to a certain extent. I'm sure she shared with all. Ms. Deborah Fowler, who is an esteemed colleague and a wonderful ESL teacher at Lowell High School, and I'd like to welcome her to the front so she can explain the project and give us some background. Thank you, Deborah.
Yes, my name is Deborah Fowler from Lowell, and I would like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, Superintendent Franco, and esteemed school committee members for this opportunity to share Through Gay Eyes, a 32-minute documentary film that spotlights 7 Lowell High School LGBTQ individuals, as well as 4 students. 2 years ago, I worked with Connor Crosby, who was then a junior student at Lowell High School, on the film Hard Truth, Levity, and Hope, zero-budget film. 2 years later, he texted me around this time 2 years ago, and he said, I have another idea for a film. He came to see me in my classroom, and he said, now mind you, this is an 18-year-old, straight, heterosexual young man, and he said, I want to spotlight the deep-rooted bias and prejudice and discrimination that I witnessed my friends and teachers enduring. He said, I want to do something about it. You know, they're just normal people. And I said, Connor, after I gave him a big hug, do you know that I'm gay? And he had no idea. And there it began. Through Gay Eyes needed $22,000 in order to produce this film, and that was a very lean $22,000. We cut corners wherever we could. And we raised the funds through Kickstarter, an online fundraising resource. And we made our funding for the first Kickstarter. And during the second Kickstarter, it was down to 4 hours left, and we needed $10,000 more. My parents stepped in and donated the $10,000. So it is really thanks to them that we are all here today. My parents' sophistication and generosity has ensured that Through Gay Eyes reaches the educators and policymakers that have the power to perpetuate the messages in Through Gay Eyes. The courage of our interviewees, and now, with all of you collectively, have found the courage to stand together and be a marker for social evolution. My parents have given me so many gifts, and now ensuring that Through Gay Eyes was able to raise the requisite funds was not only a gift to me, but potentially thousands of people. During the production process of Through Gay Eyes, several Lowell High School teachers became visible for the first time as lesbian or gay with their students. This provided opportunities for some of our students to reach out for support, and I do mean this quite literally, save lives. Connor, my parents, the interviewees, and all of you have saved lives in a positive, educative manner. All 19 of our interviewees have asked us to be honest. My parents have always told me the truth, always trusted me with the truth at a very early age. And Through Gay Eyes believes that our children are brave enough to handle the truth. The question is whether or not we are as brave as them and give it to them. A quote from one of our youngest interviewees, Amanda. She said, "Being honest and visible is important because it's not something you can see. All of us together have created a path for that honesty and visibility to educate many." A quote from Gerald Unks, who is a writer for Gay Teen magazine, said, "Within our public school curriculum, homosexuals do not exist. They are non-persons. They have fought no battles, held no offices, explored nowhere, written no literature, built nothing, invented nothing, and solved no equations." The lesson to the heterosexual student is abundantly clear. Homosexuals do nothing of consequence. To the LGBTQ student, the message has even greater power. No one who has ever felt as you do has done anything worth mentioning. The education we provide for our children must be commensurate with the path our society is evolving toward regarding real and valid equality for all. And we, all of the contributors and supporters of Through Gay Eyes, are standing together in front of you, asking for your revelatory support. Lowell Public Schools is in a ripe place for this advancement, as Through Gay Eyes, presented to our students with the masterful and sophisticated educators we have as staff, is a powerful resource to step further along the civil rights path. Lowell is in a ripe place to effect change, not just locally, but nationally, with global implications. Everyone, what we do here in Lowell, in Massachusetts, can perpetuate the social movement here in the US and reach across the globe. Every one of you here tonight is a part of this movement. We have teachers, students, some new immigrants and refugees, parents, administrators, counselors, community members, and business representatives. We, all of us here tonight, represent all of the stakeholders in education. and this moment is unprecedented. We were invited here for a spotlight on excellence, but the truth is that you, all of you who have invited us, need to have the spotlight of excellence on you. Headmaster, Mr. Martin, I thank you. Your show of support is epic, monumental. You have taken a tremendous risk, and I thank you. My parents thank you. All of the people here today thank you. Our community thanks you, and most importantly, our students thank you. 2 petitions have been circulating. They've already gleaned a lot of signatures, hundreds of signatures, including many students. And some of these students who have signed these petitions are from native countries where you can be killed for being gay. So their signature is really powerful. The first petition asks for Through Gay Eyes to be implemented into the high school health curriculum, as well as the middle school grade 8 curriculum. The second petition asks for addenda to the Common Core state initiatives curriculum so that homosexuals do exist in our history. Despite broad support and historic progress, we still have a long way to go. But as Macklemore said in his song, or sang in his song, Same Love, a certificate on a piece of paper ain't gonna solve it all, but it's a damn good place to start. A documentary film and 2 petitions ain't gonna solve it all, but it's a damn good place to start. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fowler. Madam Superintendent?
Is there a video? No? Is there a video? No, okay. So we thank you, Ms. Fowler, and everybody who has been affiliated with this project. The work is at the beginning stages. It is an amazing time in public education as we open the thinking and the communication through Common Core standards. There is much room for extended content, and so we look forward to the next steps in where, in fact, we can bring this to the forefront and to part of our curriculum. So we will definitely look into that. And I'd like to thank each of you for bringing this forward, because what is unspoken for young people and painful because it's not recognized lasts lifetimes and scars deeply. And so I would like to thank each of you for this and for bringing it forward, and thank you for being here this evening. More to come.
Thank you. Next, we have the minutes, approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled school committee meeting of Wednesday, November 6, 2013 for acceptance. So moved by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. We have memorials. Patricia Pat Thompson Hovey, Mother of the Pine Arts paraprofessional Pamela Dakota, Mother-in-law of Family Resource Coordinator John Dakota, and grandmother of Pawtucketville Memorial teacher Brittany Dakota. If you'd all please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers. Next, we have subcommittees. Curriculum Subcommittee, report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, November 12th, 2013. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee did meet on November 12th. Present from the subcommittee were myself and Ms. Scott. From central office, we had Superintendent Franco, Assistant Superintendent Claire Abrams, Cheryl Kirkpatrick, who is our new coordinator of leadership support and development for the district, Jeff Gwazda, coordinator of mathematics 5 through 12, Magali Ronan, who's the coordinator of mathematics pre-K through 4, and Marty Cohn, who's the coordinator of science and social studies pre-K through 12. And then from the high school, we had represented Headmaster Brian Martin and Amy McLeod, our director of curriculum. 4 topics were discussed. First really was just the introduction of Ms. Kirkpatrick, who, as I said, has recently joined the district as our coordinator of leadership support and development. This is a position that's very closely aligned with our evaluation work and implementing the new teacher evaluation system across the district. Secondly, we did discuss the MCAS math scores, specifically in the grades 5, 8, and grade 10. This was a topic that came up at our last school committee meeting, and we did dig in a little bit to the results, seeing that there was some real anomalies, specifically at these grade levels. The committee as a whole, I think, certainly expressed our concern about these results. And had asked for the administration to begin formulating plans to address the issue and then present at the subcommittee and then ultimately here to the full school committee. I know that additional work has gone on since this, so I would actually ask if Assistant Superintendent Abrams would like to update the committee as to what we've done and what actions we've put in place already to address this issue.
Sure. At this point, I'm focusing on grades 5 through 8. Grade 10 did come in with their action plan, which I believe you can see. But since our meeting that we did have a couple of weeks ago, the action steps that have taken place in regards to seriously looking at what is going on in our middle school mathematics, grades 5 and grades 10, grades 5, and grade 7 were really concerning. And so we have an action steps that have been taken is that I met along with the coordinator for mathematics, Jeff Gwazda, with all the middle school math resource teachers. Had that meeting on Monday, talked about potential steps that we could take. I really asked each one of them what they felt would be necessary to ensure that we don't have results like we experienced this year again, and what they saw as major focal points. So the next thing was the math coordinator, Jeff Gwazda, met today again with the coaches just to continue the conversation. One of the things that came out loud and clear from my conversations and the conversations that took place today was that the Common Core standards are much more rigorous than they have been in the past, in that there is a lot of information that has gone down to grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. Some of it in grade 5 that used to be in grade 8. So we have this dilemma, I guess you would say, that we need to solve. And one of the things that the math resource teachers were really concerned about was time to meet together and professional development. The new standards call for a lot of, obviously, basic skill work, but also a lot of standards and practices which involve modeling, arguing, what are students really doing in the classroom. So in order to do that, we have determined at this point, before the holidays, each one of the middle schools will have a total day devoted to professional development for grade 5 teachers right now. The focus is we're bringing back the idea, those who remember, we had a few years back was the Math Brigade. We're going to be able to have the Math Brigade take place in these schools so that there will be on school site professional development for the teachers, which is what the idea of the Math Brigade had been. in the past to really allow teachers to come together during the school day and focus in on their craft and talk and meet together. One of the things that we need to probably look at in relation to that with the Math Brigade is ensuring that the substitutes that we have that are coming into the building to sub, we want to make sure that they have the knowledge of what's happening today in the field of education. So one of the ideas that we're thinking about is when substitutes do have their training, that we, on particular days, would bring in a coordinator of literacy or a coordinator of mathematics, just to really talk with these people and let them know what is it like in a classroom today. It's a lot different than what it used to be. So we want to ensure that those practices, though they won't be exactly the same we know as the teacher, but at least that they are understanding what we're looking for in schools today. And I think the other thing that we talked about with relation to the grade 5 through 8 curriculum, with the standards and the alignment, I think we were able to uncover that some of the alignment wasn't quite what it should be. So now it's on our radar, and we've already started working on that today, really trying to focus in. I think one of the most important things that I learned the other day in sitting with the coaches is there's a lot of work for everyone to do. We have a critical issue right now in grades 5 and grade 7 in mathematics. We need to focus there. Not forgetting that the students that were in grade 5 are now in grade 6, and the students who are in grade 7 are now in grade 8. So also paying attention to any of the gaps that the students may have at that time. So those are the steps taken to this point, and I believe at the next curriculum subcommittee meeting, we'll bring forward updates from that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Obviously, this is a very grave concern for all of us. I appreciate the efforts of our assistant superintendent and her whole team, who I know have very clearly recognized how important this is and the kind of dogged effort we need to direct towards this. As we were talking about the Math Brigade, I do remember that. I remember that we kind of pulled that into being when we were in a somewhat similar circumstance, when we had a major change in curriculum for our mathematics program. We had teachers who were struggling in implementing it effectively, and the Math Brigade really was effective. It was a very targeted and intensive approach to ensure that teachers have what they need, have the information they need, have the technique and all that to be effective. So it's great to see that old chestnut coming back. And we look forward to it being effective once again, certainly as it was the last time. So it's good to bring back a winner. And we'll look forward to the continuing reports. As I said, I know the entire committee is very focused on ensuring that we see real results in these next few months to make sure we make up these deficits for our students. Next topic, very similar, was elementary math. We did have a report from Ms. Ronan, who is our pre-K 4 mathematics coordinator, talking about training for coaches and the first steps in mathematics, a new series that teachers are working with. And it's, I guess, a lot along the same lines, where it is a program that's helping teachers to work with students with some of the more common mistakes and misconceptions they can have around number sense. Really one of those fundamental, foundational understandings that students need during that pre-K through 4 period to ensure that they get a solid math foundation. We also had a report from Ms. Cohn, our coordinator of science and social studies, pre-K through 12, on a number of different STEM-related science, technology, engineering, and math activities that are going on across the district. Certainly a broad range of opportunities for our students, and we are working, I know, extremely hard to ensure that our STEM areas are expanding over time. Some, real highlights where we have students who are going to be attending events at the Museum of Science in Boston. We have a specialized engineering pilot program going on at the Pine Arts, and a number of different activities. We also did receive an update on the plan for our the social studies activity, a a tour that's going to be going through downtown of all our municipal sites, which I believe was the initial brainchild of my colleague, Ms. Scott. So we got some updates on what that day is going to be all about. So a lot of great activity going on in that area. I would submit that to the full committee as a report of progress from the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to accept as a report of progress. So moved by Mr. Conway, seconded by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have the Facilities Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, November 13th, 2013.
Thank you, Mayor. It was about a 2-hour meeting regarding the initial proposals, kind of the draft from our architect's OMR. Pretty much the entire school committee was in attendance, and the administration. A lot to talk about. I think that I'll kind of go from the end and back to the beginning. We're going to have another subcommittee meeting on Monday, November 25th, which we encourage our friends from the Lowell Sun to attend. There you go. That's really where recommendations for the full committee will be in December, our first meeting in December, in terms of actually the draft. Publication, this entire report is online with the Lowell Public Schools. We encourage people to take a look at it. It provides different types of, basically multiple options in terms of what our schools could be and associated costs that would be attached with those options. It's very difficult to kind of go through all of it because it's such an enormous document with such enormous proposals, but it does give us the beginnings of a discussion that the school committee needs to have prior to beginning this to bring out to other groups within the city, including and especially the delegation and the city council in terms of bonding and what type of financial planning we'll need with the Massachusetts School Building Authority and the city. Some of the highlights, really, they looked at different ways K through 8. It's interesting to note, backing up, it wasn't just about the high school. There was multiple proposals regarding K through 8. In terms of looking at schools, should we have continued elementary schools K through 4? Should we have elementary schools K through 5? Should we have growing the program K through 8? In different parts of the city, they looked at geography in terms of where any potential new buildings would go. It was a pretty interesting dialogue in terms of how much space we really don't have left in the city that's viable for new school construction. Some of the major points that they covered was discussing the projected enrollment data guiding the discussion on the current projected classroom needs, discussing the actual facility needs in terms of what is a school. I said high school, kind of Freudian slip, but what is a K through 8 school and a high school look for a student in this day and age, and what will it look like in the next 10 to 20 years? The numbers that were presented for estimated costs are, they're significantly large. Part of the issue that when we begin to look at the options that we need to drill down to specifics of what does this city really need going forward to represent not only our students, but the citizens of the city. I think that is what we'll begin to do on the 25th in subcommittee, making recommendations, and the full school committee will make that vote really on that first Wednesday in December. After that point, we'll have a draft report created, and we'll be bringing in the entire community in terms of looking at what does the community want for its public schools, what is the city council's vision for the Lowell Public Schools, and ultimately what is the state's vision for our schools, because the funding going forward will be largely driven from the Mass School Building Authority. Looking at the numbers of the subcommittee, they're awesome numbers in terms of the dollar value. Part of the thing we need to take a look at, though, is a lot of our schools that we built back in 93, 94, 95, similar costs at that point in time. Most of those costs are coming off our long-term bond projections. So this is a time, really kind of an open window opportunity to take a look at putting facility investment back into the Lowell Public Schools. It is at the very beginning of that discussion. It is a long road that will be going down. It won't be, created in December or January, but the blueprints, at least the footprints going forward, will be created, and we'll need the entire community to be a part of that. Focusing on the press and a lot of folks focus on the high school, and rightfully so, they should focus on it because it's a very important part of our community, a very important part of our downtown, but we also need to really look at the K through 8 component. A lot of the schools that our forefathers, in terms of the city council and prior administrations and the school committee and school department put together, a lot of those schools now are 25, 30 years old. And that's at their middle-aged lifespan. So investment needs to be put into those schools, whether they're ultimately repairs or ultimately new construction. I think that's what we need to have a dialogue, as well as the importance of having the dialogue about Lowell High School. So it is a comprehensive, detailed beginning report. It's not even the draft report. I think we're getting to develop that again in the next few weeks. So I look forward to having that discussion next Monday. It will be televised. This portion is already on our website. I know the Lowell Sun will be eagerly looking at this as they write this up in the next coming weeks. And I look forward to having additional dialogue next Monday, as well as the first meeting on Wednesday. It was a report of progress taken by Mr. Robert Gignac and second by Ms. Kristen Rosikowicz. All those voted in favor. Thank you.
Any discussion? It's saying then a motion to accept the report as a report of progress, so moved by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have reports of the superintendent. First report is the kindergarten enrollment update. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the committee knows, because I've been informing you, that since we opened the new kindergarten class at the Rogers School right after Columbus Day, we have received 24 students. And so it was the wish of the committee in our original plan. We thought that would be quite enough, and we did not anticipate the number of students that came in. I have provided a report here with the assistance of Ms. Janine Durkin and John Dakota's office of the numbers that exist across the school system after we have had transitions and whatnot throughout the system. Our smallest class size is 23.5, I guess, if you can do a 0.5 with a child, the average in the Pine Arts and the Bartlett schools. So those two schools are a bit lower, but we have kindergarten sizes up to 27 in the district. So as a result of this unexpected influx, and it was not my expectation that I would be back asking for more support, we do need to have another class added at the Rogers School. Recommendation this evening is to hire an additional kindergarten teacher and a paraprofessional for the Rogers School. Additionally, as this committee and others can imagine, that the transient nature of the children who are coming to our school in a small setting that do not have the resources of social worker and others, we really are looking for a part-time social worker to be working with the children. There is a social worker who works in the early childhood department and out in the community, half-time in the community, half-time with us at on the first floor, the pre-K program, who has been assisting quite regularly, but I am asking for the support of a part-time social worker to work with the children, because there are behavior systems, there's much work to be accomplished that we are finding in our particular building. And so as we look at the total would be $58,837.40 to be detailed. And so I'm recommending that these 3 additional positions be approved and come from the school committee suspense account. Suspense account has a balance of $121,113 after the food service agreement guaranteed saving transfer is processed. And so at this particular time, although I may honestly share with you there are many other areas where we could be spending this money, class size for little children at this particular point is our priority. Additionally, just so you know about some of the proactivity, I have asked the family resource and especially our principals to make sure that we're really being very, very specific about where people are coming from, the location, if there's any idea that people are not Lowell residents, we do not have any information, but this immediate influx, you were provided a chart last week, but it's very interesting that the numbers came from these following areas. We did have 7 from out of state, children that came since Columbus Day, 8 from other communities, and 6 transferred within the Lowell Public Schools. Those 6 transferred came to the center of town only because when they change zones, then your transportation costs soar. But they left classes that were 26 over 25, so because we see the remaining numbers. So I welcome any questions you may have, and thank you.
Mr. Gignac, then Mr. Conway, then Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few questions for the superintendent. I noticed here that the Moody School has an average class size of 29. I thought over a month ago that we took a vote to freeze the class sizes at that time, and do you remember that?
Yes, the class sizes were frozen, but there is a newcomer population in that particular building, and
Yeah.
so there has been some integration in those particular classes. So in kids preparing for that, we asked for the real figures. So we have not added more bodies, but we have added integration. So I know that you, Mr. Gignac, have been in the newcomer classrooms at the Moody School. So there have been some children that are in there because they're ready for more English. And at schools like the Moody and the Pine, the Green Elge, and schools like that have newcomer populations, as well as children who are in the special education classrooms, they do go in for integration. So those were internal transfers that have risen. We did not, because of the support of the committee, and we moved very quickly, we did not put any students back in the classrooms after we had the directive and the support of the school committee, but those numbers were internal as far as I've been told, Mr. Gignac, but it is an excellent question, and because it looks so much higher than the rest, those were internal.
Yeah, well, I assume that they were internal. However, that those children came from somewhere, and it looks like the numbers at some of the schools froze, but that wasn't necessarily the case across the board, which kind of concerns me, only because this is a time-sensitive matter that I assume that you would like us to take a vote on tonight, right? Yeah, okay. I'll let my colleagues ask the rest of the questions.
Mr. Conway?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the superintendent. I thought our suspense account was down to $0. And can you explain to me where this 121, a little bit more information where this $121,113 came from?
I directed Mr. Lang to look through the budget. I'm going to ask him to do that. He'll have a better answer than I, Mr. Conway.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's just the balance of the unobligated funds in the suspense account. At the end of the fiscal year, when we approved a budget, we then closed the fiscal year 13 rolling into 14. Any of the unencumbered balance rolls into 14. And then if you recall, when we had set the budget back in April and May, we hadn't yet settled the food service contract. And what we had budgeted was a $300,000 savings in the food service contract. But when the bids came in, Aramark had actually guaranteed a little over $700,000 in savings. So we're actually still working out the details of that contract. It has to be approved by the state. Once that is done, I'm going to come back to the committee with a recommendation to move the extra $400,000 in savings that was guaranteed in that contract into the suspense account.
So we did have, at one point there, we had nothing in the suspense account. Is that correct?
Well, technically, when you approved the budget at the end of last fiscal year, yeah, we didn't have a suspense account.
So now we have not only 121,000, but we're going to have additional monies that are going to bring us up to 400,000. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm taking into consideration that the Aramark contract once signed, and you actually do the budget transfers.
at that point in time, because 2 or 3 meetings ago, we actually voted to add some additional kindergarten staff and some tutors in the different schools. That already took into account that extra $400,000 in savings that was transferred to the suspense account. So I'm saying after that transfer is done, the balance is going to be the 121,000. It's not 121 plus another 4. You're starting at 121.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Leary?
Just no, thank you very much. I appreciate bringing recommendations. I think what we need to do, though, is really to have another meeting to look at what's the real root cause of what's going on. We still don't have an answer to that question. I mean, I think that's really the issue. I realize the funding's there, but this is probably one of the tighter years in terms of we're going to have this problem probably again in February. I mean, as it seems right now, I think that's the issue. So I'm not really prepared to vote on it immediately tonight. I know we can get either a finance or curriculum subcommittee to look over not only the financial piece of it, but also what are the causes of this? What are we doing to be more proactive as opposed to just lining up staff? That might just, it's probably a 100% chance we're going to have to put the staff in place. But this is going to happen again probably in another few months. What are we going to do at that point in time? So I really think we need to get a full comprehensive plan, not just every time we get an X amount of students thinking we're going to have staff that we can roll in, because we're not going to have that chance the next time we're faced with this issue. So I guess I make a motion to refer to the finance subcommittee and then have that as quickly as possible so we can have it before the next meeting in the first Wednesday in December.
Motion by Mr. Leary. Second. Seconded by Mr. Gignac. On the motion, Ms. Martin. Ms. Scott.
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the superintendent. I just had another question about the numbers at the Moody School. Is that part of a newcomer program that rolled into it? Is that what I'm understanding? So our plan, my understanding is that the plan is for students in the newcomer program to have an opening in their school that they've been part of the school community. But I would say that we would need to do planning to make sure that we have a lower population to leave room for them if they're going to make that transfer within the school. I mean, we certainly can't just move them into a classroom that's already overcrowded. And we also don't want to move them out of the community that they've been in for a year, the only community that they really know in the country. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So until our meeting in December, I will direct Mr. Dakota to continue, if we have more students come in, to put them in the lower classrooms until we can come to open or establish other classrooms. I just want to make sure that I'll send that message to my staff and the schools, just so you know. So,
Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I understand that as a response. My concern is, and again, my colleague is right, we had this exact same conversation a month ago. So for me, I'm concerned if a new student comes in tomorrow, they get placed at the Bailey, which has 27.25 students, bringing them up to 28. We're not going to be able to then pull that child back and put them in a new classroom, a new classroom at the Rogers. That's done. So I understand the concerns of the committee wanting to wait to go through all this, and I absolutely want to be able to certainly tease through the finances, even more so tease through what is putting us in this situation. But I have grave concerns about us putting this off for another month, because I don't want to see students getting placed into these already overcrowded classrooms, when I think, as Mr. Leary said, we know we're going to have to add a classroom. We know that that's what's going to have to happen. I think we'd be better served, and I would make this as a friendly amendment to the motion. I second that motion. If Mr. Leary would entertain it, that we move forward voting tonight to add these 3 positions and open up this new classroom, but absolutely put on the agendas for upcoming finance and for curriculum, that we have to, review the financing part of this. But ultimately, it's not enough for us to be sitting here with the administration and ourselves not knowing the answer. There are mysteries in this life. I cannot believe that this is one of them that cannot be solved. There have to be other communities that are facing this, other urban communities in Massachusetts. We are, Lowell is a unique place. We're not that unique. This has to be part of a larger situation. And again, I think it's got to be the fifth or sixth time that we've all sat here surprised by this situation. So I really think we need to dig into this. And I would ask at our next curriculum instruction subcommittee, which is scheduled in a few weeks, I'm sure, because they keep coming, if we could put this on the topic to have, and maybe it is a matter of getting someone from the International Institute to speak to us. Maybe it's a matter of getting someone from DESE to come out and discuss with us what this dynamic is, how it's manifesting itself in other communities, and how they may be dealing with it. But it's not enough for us not to know anymore. We need to nail this down. So I would, again, if I could say, moving forward to open up this new classroom so that we don't put any more of a burden on our existing overcrowded classrooms, but recognize that there is important work that needs to be done around this topic that we all need to be a part of.
So if I may, sure, let me try. So that would be a substitute motion to, in a friendly manner, a substitute motion to approve the recommendation of the superintendent, but also to refer this to the finance subcommittee. Is the finance subcommittee or? Okay. Refer this to finance, curriculum, whatever you'd like, for December so that we can get a fuller report. That's the substitute motion, seconded by Mr. Leary. On the motion, Mr. Leary?
Just quickly, so the numbers that we have here today, so it's really 121,000 pending, we're taking 58. Okay. So this is the issue really that's concerning, that we got the, like you were saying, using Ms. Martin's language, tease additional monies out of different areas, which we can obviously do, but we're going to be faced with this situation again in February. So it's imperative that this become a very important issue, for our Parent Information Center, and bringing not only the issues, but recommendations that what are we going to do? And if we need to pull in resources from the state, which I think is really going to be the answer here, then we need to do that, and we need to do it now. Thank you.
Mr. Conway?
Yeah, just very quickly, I think that, again, as Ms. Martin said, I mean, and Mr. Leary, we've sat down, we've talked about this time and time again, and it seems as though it's not getting any better, and that a couple of weeks from now or a month from now, we're going to be faced with the same problem. And I think that by sitting down, and I certainly can understand the administration trying to work as hard as they possibly can to try to figure out a solution to this problem, because obviously they're anticipating a frustration that's going to take place by the committee. I think what is needed at this point is that, which Ms. Martin alluded to, is we need to sit down. The administration needs to sit down and identify different types of entities or agencies that can help us figure out how to go forward. Because apparently we don't have the correct information or the updated information to do the forecasting. So we need to bring somebody. That's, I think, is one of the keys right now, is to sit down and say, who do we have to bring to the table to figure this out and help us out? Thank you.
Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two things I think we should keep in mind is that, we might be adding an additional 3 positions, and we added more just a month ago, but these kids are going to be going to first grade next year, so what is that going to mean to the entire district? These bodies have to go somewhere. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, because the cuts are going to have to be made in some way, shape, or form. But also, we hire a firm to do these projections for us, and I understand that they were pretty accurate on the rest of the grades. However, the fact that we're sitting here discussing this in November, and the firm that we used was completely off, and how are those projections going to face us next year or the year after? And Mr. Leary just mentioned the fact that OMR architects are doing this capital plan. Well, guess whose data they're using? NASDAQ's projections. So how are we going to go off of that? It's just, I'm not confident with this provider, and I don't know how my colleagues feel about using them in the future, but I don't think they're doing a service to the school district, because this is taking away from quite a few people's time, and at the end, it's not beneficial to our students. So, thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Entertain the motion to accept the report as a report of progress, so moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next report is a technology communication improvement. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Murphy. This report is just talking about increasing our activity on Facebook. Earlier in the month, I approached Director of Technology, William Silver, with an interest that the person who's in charge of our grants, our Director of Grants and Partnership Development, Susan Lynn from Project Learn, was interested in helping with the communication pieces. And so together, they have been working on increasing the activity and the upgrades on Facebook. And so this short report just talks about the increase, and that the likes of the page increased 10% to 275, that there were many posts, that there were certain notices that have gone up, and the activity and the usage has substantially increased for a beginning of improving the communication systems through another venue. So that's the work on that particular point. We will be working very cohesively tomorrow in your administrative updates, just because, and it will be a report in the future. We will be posting a number of upcoming workshops, monthly workshops for parents on issues and different topics that will be popular for parents, and they're being provided through our special education department, but it's for all parents. And so we will be using Facebook and Twitter and all the other areas that we can get the information out there, as well as the old-fashioned copy and newsletter way. So we're trying to use technology to more of an advantage, and this is just the beginning of that change. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the superintendent, I think that it's very interesting and a very positive situation where we find the Lowell Public Schools Facebook has improved dramatically over the last few weeks. I'd like to ask you, who was in charge of this Facebook up until all these changes took place?
The Facebook account has been overseen by the technology department in general.
Well, okay, and who's in charge of it?
I believe Mr. Overton is in charge of the particular area, the day-to-day communications.
And yet we needed to bring in and thank heavens that we had somebody that was willing to help out. Obviously, there was a need, but we needed to bring the person that's a grant writer and to come in to help us with this. That we couldn't figure this out through our own technology, our own staff.
In this particular place, Mr. Conway, I'm just going to tell you that a lot of the content pieces had the lens of an educator that were added to them. I'm not saying that what was existing was non-existent, but in just an ability to send out these good news activities, the lens of an educator helped substantially to set a really positive tone and kind of a fun, lighter tone, and I think that's why the usage increased. And so I'm not trying to be disrespectful to what existed. I know part of that is me being able to supervision and evaluation and get the news out there and the technology pieces, so I'm never in the position to blame anybody, but in this particular case, there was interest. We're talking about communication in general along with Project Learn, and so in a very unassuming way, Mr. Silver and Ms. Lynn spoke about it, and it was just a natural, it evolved naturally. So it's not that we had that. I think it was just setting up the systems, and Ms. Lynn was more than willing to do this, and it's something she had great expertise in.
Well, again, I think that things have obviously turned around in a very, very positive way, and it seems as though with the addition of the equation of Susan Lynn coming in as the Director of Grants and Partnership Development certainly made this, certainly turned this around. So I applaud her efforts in that area, because that, needless to say, will certainly help in the communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. You know, and I think the key thing that I'd like to communicate, and this is actually something I have already communicated to the superintendent's office, was that I think the appropriateness of the communication, the voice that's now behind our Facebook posts is dead on, and is, I think, really the exact right tone. For an institution to have an appropriate voice and an appropriate presence in social media, I think is where you tap into the real power of it. I do think it's important to note that Facebook is a technology, but using it is not a technological function. It is a communication venue. And in the same way that you wouldn't expect a cameraman to be the one telling the story, we hired a storyteller in Susan Lynn, and she's done a wonderful job with that. And as Mr. Conway is always so kind to credit me with, the idea being that we didn't want to bring on strictly a grant writer. We wanted to bring on someone who had institutional development as a expertise. That's where this comes from, that ability to tell stories in a compelling way, and the ability to communicate in a compelling way is in a nutshell, exactly what we were hoping for on our best days, bringing in this individual. So I think that having the right person to do this job is great. I myself have read all the Facebook posts and found them to be really informative, and again, the right engaging kind of tone. So I join with Mr. Conway in being very pleased that we have this improved presence in social media. I know he's enjoying it as much as I am.
Nicely done.
Thank you for clarifying that, Ms. Martin.
Any further discussion? Entertain then a motion to accept his report of progress. So moved by Mr. Conway, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have a report on the progress on the educator evaluation process. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a couple of months since I have given a report of progress on what I consider to be the most important initiative that is ongoing in the state of Massachusetts, and the only place I care about, Lowell, Massachusetts. So we are really working diligently. I just provided this as a progress report. We had a substantial deadline on Halloween. Everybody was getting their goals and their self-assessment imported into TeachPoint, which is the technology system. And so we were working on team goals. There was a substantial amount of work. Thanks to this committee, we did use the release time thus far this year to build the goals and the objectives. We are at the stage of every classroom being visited at this particular point and feedback being incorporated. I, too, am using the new technology for evaluation of principals and assistant superintendents. So my goal here was just to review the deadlines, tell you that we are on par. The evaluator educator plans are submitted. We are going towards the evidence and the outreach, which the next big deadline is December 15th. And just to let you know that it is a daunting task, but it is a very rewarding task. We're looking at what is proficiency consistently across the district with the new standards, and I just wanted to keep you informed of where we are in the particular process. I have been to most schools and been able to give feedback to our principals, and I am watching the progress and the quality of the goals across the district. Luckily, I can see everything, so it's very interesting process-wise, so I welcome any questions you may have. Also, the support of this committee did allow us to hire someone for the development of our leaders, and so we have been working diligently looking at alignment and reliability and validity like you do in the assessment field. So we've looked at tapes of teaching and learning and looked at how the evaluation would be consistently and had many good discussions. So I just wanted to give you an update at this particular point, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Certainly appreciate the report. It's something that I know this entire committee's been paying very close attention to. I was just wondering, and I'm looking at the time frame here, we're looking at December 15th as when we'll have the first real submissions. As I'm reading this, the evidence, parent outreach, professional growth, progress on goals, and other standards as I read this. I think that might be an interesting time for the personnel subcommittee to perhaps get an update. As you have, I obviously don't want specific content, to any individual teacher or any other individual. But I think you would have a sense at that point of what we're going to be looking at the conclusion. So I'm particularly interested to see kind of what the goals are in a generic sense, what the kind of parent outreach rubrics are for what is, proficient, so we can get some of that background at a midpoint, kind of at a formative, in a formative sense before we, kind of move towards and we get to the end of the year and we're looking at the final numbers. So if I could request that for the next personnel subcommittee, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Entertain a motion to accept the report as report of progress. So moved by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, under new business, we have the Lowell High School Athletics Rule 53 waiver request. Attached is a request from Mr. James DeProfio, Athletic Director, seeking approval of the Lowell School Committee for Lowell High School to seek a waiver with the MIAA to allow 7th and 8th grade middle school students to try out and participate on the Lowell High School ice hockey and ski teams during the 2013-2014 school year. Approval of the Lowell School Committee is sought to allow myself to authorize the application. What's the wish? Move for approved by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Next, we have communications, a vote of the appointees to the Lowell Telecommunications Corporation Board. Appointees are Mr. Jack Bernard, the Educational Television Program Coordinator, Ms. Ann Sheehy, Moody School Teacher, to continue to serve in their roles. Move to approve by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Leary. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will vote present as I currently serve on the Board of Directors.
Anyone else wishing to discuss? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Present.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 present, approved.
Next, we have the members of the United Teachers of Lowell hereby wish to donate 7 sick leave days to Kristen Colon, a Lowell High School teacher. Move to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Rosikowicz. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have adjournment. Motion to adjourn by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. We stand adjourned.